Good morning, everyone. I'm Luis Pilea, a grade school language teacher from Xavier School and a pioneer here at Tagpros. I am back as your host for today, and we welcome you back to Tagpros Children Live Webinar Workshops. This webinar workshop series is brought to you by Tagpros Children in partnership with Tagpros Education, an up and coming online K 12 marketplace where passion takes the lead in learning. This event is also made possible by the Department of Education International Cooperation Office, the Teacher Education Network, and Next Series. First, we want to share the good news that we are now holding live classes on our TagPros platform. These classes are crafted to help our learners learn skills and techniques that will help them in their classroom activities. So Rodel, a math teacher, was able to successfully finish a live class with grade 5 students from the US. Both parents and students loved and enjoyed his method of teaching math. He was then requested to create another tutorial class for them to extend their learning online. Now, at this point, let us watch the video of Sir Rodel.
My name is Rodel Lintag, a licensed professional teacher from the Philippines. I want to share with you these 3 takeaways in doing online teaching through Tagpros Education. Be happy, do good, keep motivated. I am happy because helping students perform better in mathematics gives me a sense of fulfillment with joy. The mind of the child is like a blank slate. Whatever you write in the minds of the children or in that slate, it will always leave a trail in their minds and in their hearts. In my job as an online teacher, I always think of the good things that I may share with my students, especially with live lessons in mathematics. When they see that math lessons are significant and that they can be applied in everyday life, certainly they will love mathematics. I could feel that they are interested in learning mathematics through our interactive, innovative, and integrative teaching approaches. No matter how complex or complicated, for example, a word problem is, you will be confident that you can solve it with 100% accuracy. I encourage all teachers out there to take online teaching through Tagpros Education. You can be a happy online teacher as I am. You can be a vessel of good things to share with children. You can be a conduit of motivation for learners to grow and develop as good men and women in the future. Come and be one of us in Tagpros Education.
All right, and just to share with you, dear participants, I was also requested to make a live tutorial classes for US-based students. So I'm currently in communication with a couple of students and parents. So for those of you who are interested to enroll in writing workshops, in easy essay writing classes, and enrichment sessions, please join me and enroll here at Tagpros. All right, hope to see you there. Come on and join us. Now, we are currently offering classes in our platform, currently in different subjects, interests, and also for different age groups. I actually also offer music lessons on Tagpros for those who would like to learn how to play an instrument. I encourage you to all, please look at the several classes on the platform of Tagpros. Also, we hold weekly onboarding process classes for teacher partners. Now, our Tagpros teacher partners can look forward to the following benefits. Number 1, we can all earn while teaching your expertise at your own pace, place, and time. So what more are we looking for? Number 2, we have access to teacher CPD accredited training and professional development. 3, we have opportunities to participate in international professional learning opportunities in the United States with our official education partners. Also, you'll get an official certified Tagpros Teacher Partner Badge. And lastly, many more other perks as you create and conduct your online classes. Now, before we continue, I'd like to show you a video of the different classes on our Tagpros platform. Enjoy. All right. Now, if you are interested to know more and to join, please let us know. To learn more about our program, please spend some time and check our education marketplace platform on tagpros.us. We really hope to see you there. Now, why don't we have an attendance check and see where all of our watchers and participants are coming from? Say hi to everyone here on StreamYard Tag Pros Live. All right. If you're here with us, why don't you drop a message, say hello. Hello here at Tag Pros Official. Okay, so let's give it some time. All right. We hope to see and hear from you in a bit. Now, as always, let's practice responsible digital citizenship and refrain from sharing personal information in the comments section. Also, that includes your email and contact number. Let's also be civil to one another in the comment section. A general reminder to everyone, registering for the webinar workshop or just watching the webinar does not make you eligible for a digital certificate. If you want to receive a digital certificate, you have to finish the workshop and answer the evaluation forms that we release after every session. After we open the form, you only have a week to answer, and it will be closed at Friday at 11:59 p.m. Let's take note of that. If you miss the deadline, you will no longer be able to access and answer the evaluation form, even if you registered and joined the webinar session. So again, we do hope that you understand and remember this. Thank you very much. All right. Now, the part we've all been waiting for, let's get to know our guest resource speaker for today. He is a grade school Filipino and social studies teacher in Xavier School San Juan. As an Apple Learning Leader and EdTech Coach, he conducts training on seamless integration of technology in the curriculum, both locally and internationally. He is also a curriculum writer and a digital learning consultant in publishing companies in the Philippines. He started his passion in education and reading through Teach for the Philippines when he was assigned to teach third graders and develop reading programs in Kapitbahayan Elementary School in Navotas City. A passion-driven and visionary educator, he pushes for functional literacy, soft skills, historical truth, and EdTech tools to achieve fun, purposive, and effective learning. As reported by the Inquirer last April 1, 2022, as their headline stated, Lockdown's Impact. UNICEF cites poor reading skills among Filipino kids. We can't deny the fact that learning loss in the pandemic greatly affected the literacy skills of learners. As classes have mostly resumed face-to-face, how do we recover from this deficit? Let's welcome Mr. Nico Fos as he explains to us the benefits that our young children can learn from this topic. He will share with us today some techniques and strategies on how to battle comprehension in this webinar entitled ABDPLAKoNKKBSA. I really hope I read that correctly. Battling Comprehension Woes. Again, let us give a virtual round of applause for Mr. Nico Fos.
All right. So thank you, Luis, for that wonderful introduction. So just to be clear, the title is Aba, Di Pala Ako Nakakabasa. So it's a play of words on the the words, aba, di pala ako nakakabasa, because it has been a technique or strategy before where students are taught to read via syllables and via ABDPLAKoNKKBSA, the traditional Filipino alphabet. And so in this session, we are going to talk about battling comprehension woes. And as stated a while ago, we are facing a learning crisis and facing unsurmountable amount of learning loss in during the pandemic. And as we do resume the face-to-face classes this year, how we go about battling comprehension woes and recovering from this deficit. So I hope that you are all well alive, and let's begin with looking at our objectives for today. So hopefully the first thing that we'll do is to comprehend comprehension, because we know that there are certain factors, certain reasons why comprehension is seemingly a challenging skill for our students to achieve. We'll try to look at the different factors affecting comprehension and what is the state of comprehension in our country. And next is battling comprehension woes. How would we be able to respond and address the situation? Wearing different hats, we are trying to look at different lenses so that we'd be able to understand where we're coming from and how would we go about in improving the literacy skills, especially comprehension in our country. And last but not the least, we will talk about how do we move and read forward, knowing the issues at hand, knowing the responsibilities we need to do. How do we then move forward and make sure that our students will become readers? And so, to start our session for today. So again, I'm very happy to be here with you this Saturday morning, sacrificing your Monday for uh, for this session. So I hope that we can learn together, and I would love to hear your insights as we go along our session. All right. And if you do have questions, if you do have good ideas, kindly share it to the comment section, and I would love to really hear from you, and have this good conversation. And to start our session today, let me just throw this question to you. Okay? So, what makes okay, here's my question. So, what makes a struggling reader? So, if you are live with us, kindly share your answers in the comment section. And so, for you, what makes a struggling reader? So type in your answers if you think what makes a struggling reader? What makes a reader struggling? Okay? So maybe some of you are still shy to chat, but please do. I don't bite. I'm just kidding. So again, what makes a struggling reader? Ayan. So I'm seeing in the comment section saying good morning. So again, teachers, good morning. I'm glad to be on board. But okay, there's one from the comments. Thank you very much, sir. So he said, lack of, thank you po, teacher. So he said, it was said by this teacher, lack of knowledge of the basic sounds. Okay, that's correct. So one thing that we would know that a reader is struggling if that person, if this student, if this learner cannot decode and speak the sounds, no, lack of knowledge of decoding the words, transforming it into sounds, therefore being able to read. That's correct. So aside from students not be able to decode, struggling readers usually have low to no comprehension at all. Okay? They don't have also they have inadequate literacy skills. No, it's not enough for the standards. And there are different factors. Okay? There are different factors that are involving the, the nature and the nurture factors when it comes to reading as a skill. And so, with that being said, even during the pandemic, it has been a challenge for to how we as teachers, we how can we really pinpoint those learners who have comprehension woes, because since there are times that we just assume that they can really read well because they can decode, right? So there's there are three different types of struggling readers. There is a struggle in decoding, those students who cannot read at all, and there are struggles that are just on the part of comprehension. Yes, they can decode well, they can read well, and sometimes teachers assume that they can decode the words properly, but they cannot comprehend what they are reading. No, and sometimes these things, these challenges are not go unnoticed. No, because surprisingly they would fail standardized test, and their issues may be undetected, and to our surprise, even high school students or college students sound like they're reading, but in reality they don't really understand anything that they have read, anything that they have read as a student. No? The text that they're reading are not really registering to their and not really making sure that they have understood what they've read. And with that, that has been the problem, no, pre-pandemic. Okay, that has been the problem pre-pandemic, and so when the pandemic came and there are other disasters that hit the country, we know that in the Philippines we do have typhoons, no, coming on our way every year annually, but climate change has been very difficult, no? The typhoons have ravaged the country, and it has gotten worse to the point that it would stop the learning of the students, not just the pandemic, no? And in turn, it has worsened the learning crisis in the country, and that affects the comprehension of our students. And so, according to a study by the UNICEF and the World Bank, learning loss must be recovered to avoid long-term damage to the children's well-being and productivity. Okay? Meaning to say, we have tried to make solutions out of the situation at hand. We try to do remote learning, online learning, modular learning to try to recover from this learning loss. And as you can see, lockdowns impact, literacy fallout, and so the government and DepEd and the teachers are trying to look for ways on how we improve the comprehension of our students, and of course recover from the learning loss. And this has been a sad and grim reality, no? When students from privileged families have the option to do online schooling and other learning modalities, and when they get sick, no, they can recover. But students from underprivileged families, no, would really have a hard time, a hard time to continue learning, to continue school, and at times they drop out. And so, but in general, no, and in my own experience, I think so, and I think, and I know maybe you also notice this, that our students now coming from 2 years of online and modular learning or remote learning, they don't really meet the standards when it comes to literacy and even social emotional development. So it's not just the literacy part, but how are they able to do their interpersonal relationships, how they communicate, and how are their mindsets and approaches towards learning. And so it has been a challenge for us, no, as teachers, to really make sure that our students, once we resume face to face, how can we recover from the learning loss that affected our students. And so, for today's session, we will wear different hats because we would like to approach the problem from different perspectives. Because it's not just one person's job to make sure that our children can read. And some of the recommendations that I will show you today are coming from the impact data report of different institutions like the World Bank, UNICEF, ADB, and of course, we will draw from our experiences so that we would be able to face this head on and analyze the problems at hand. So, to start, we would like us to wear our hats as part of the institution. What do I mean by that? Okay, let me just share again. It just suddenly get paused. You know, there are times when our presentations don't work, no? Even in these times, we have to still continue. That's life. We have to continue. And so, going back to what I said, let me just give me a moment to reconnect. Okay. So, like I've said, we are going to wear our hats for today, different hats, and as part of institutions. Okay, let me just share again. Mhm. Okay, I think you can see my screen now. Okay, so going back to what I said, um, as part of institutions, how can institutions help in improving the comprehension of the students? So, in your comments, I would like us to really think about how can institutions like the government, like the private sectors, the corporations, how can they help in improving comprehension in the students? And even school administrators or schools, how can they improve comprehension of the students? So I'll be waiting in the comment section. How can these institutions help? Okay. So now let's move forward. So while waiting for your comments, let me just look at the different factors that or different ways and strategies on how institutions can help the comprehension. Okay? All right. Let me share again. I think it's not working on my side. Is it sharing now? Oh no. Okay. All right. So I think it's sharing now or not yet. Not any. All right. Okay. So going back, I'm seeing one comment. Teacher Joy said, providing time and tutoring our clients. So maybe as part of institutions, have that opportunity for other teachers to provide time in tutoring our clients. And so another extra time or remediation can help. But as institutions, as part of the government, they have to ensure learning continuity. That's why in the new policy this year, the STEP Ed made sure that we are going to continue our learning. Okay? We are going to continue our learning by prioritizing face-to-face classes and strengthening health protocols and measures so that the safety of our students, of our learners, and of course, the teachers will be ensured. Why? Because there's a difference in doing face-to-face classes, teaching comprehension face-to-face, as to compared to online learning. Okay? And so, as institutions, we have to make sure that there's a proper avenue for teachers and healthy and safe learning environment for everyone. Now, of course, our school administrators, our institutions should make sure that the instruction is well adjusted. What do we mean by that? So, we need to support the learner's needs and focus on important foundational skills as they come back to school face to face 100% on site. We need to gradually extend the learning time and consolidate the curriculum and make sure to recover what are the topics that were left behind or that were not really um, included during the 2-year blip or the 2-year time that we're not here. So go with foundational skills first, basic literacy skills, reading, making sounds, speech, the language. Then gradually including the different literacy skills and then comprehension. So with that being said, we need to the school administrators, the institutions should make sure that the curriculum is ready, no? The curriculum is ready, the teachers are ready. And so because we also need to have adequate support for our teachers. Huh? Um, of course, it will not be possible if our teachers are not well supported. So there's compensation, and maybe training. Of course, training is important, especially on handling not just reading comprehension, reading remediations, but also providing social emotional support for teachers. Because teachers are not just teachers or educators inside the classroom, they're also there as adults who would provide social emotional support to our students. That's why we all, as institutions, they have to pass laws, they have to show support to our teachers so that they would be able to do their jobs. They would be able to help our students, to help our students. So this is on the side of this is on the side of the institutions, no? So now I would like us to wear a different hat as educators, as teachers naman this time around. So teachers, if you're a teacher, if you're a formator, if you're a school personnel, or you have a hand on transferring the knowledge and skills to the students, then these are the strategies to go. Now, some of these strategies are already, I think some of you are already familiar, but it's good for us to really have this conversation to be refreshed and to remember these strategies on how to go about improving the comprehension of our students. So, in your own in the comments, how can educate you type in the comment section, teachers and parents. So, how can educators help in improving comprehension of the students? Okay. So, first one, from another teacher, give your students plenty of practice. Use different teaching methods. And that I agree. That's a very nice answer, teacher. When we do make the time for practice, then our students will be able to really improve drastically in their comprehension. When they get to practice reading, when they get to practice creating questions and making meanings out of what they read, no? And we use different a variety of teaching methods, then our students would be able to improve in the side of comprehension. And also, it's good that the characteristics were also mentioned: being patient and being positive. Yes, of course, it's not just the different teaching methods on how we approach to these reading techniques, but also our characteristics, our traits on how we go about these things, no, being sure that we are patient with our students. Sometimes, diba, they're makulit. And so it's just needs us teachers to be patient, to understand where they're coming from. And Ma'am Joy said, assess first, then plan what our learners need. That's correct. We need to rethink about how we do testing and assessing our students' capacity and abilities and reading levels to make sure that we could create the best solution, the best reading strategies appropriate to the needs of our learners. That's very nice po. Thank you, teacher. So, aside from the comments that you said po, here are some of the ways that we can go about it. So first, again, we need to reinvent how we teach reading comprehension. It might be a little different from what we've used to doing the traditional face-to-face classes before the pandemic hit. And then we did change again the second time. Kaya naman lagi, we need to adjust, no? Depending on the learning modality. We then adjusted to online or modular, and now we're back to hybrid or 100% face-to-face. So how do we then reinvent the way we teach the reading comprehension? So of course, this is very basic. We need to unlock the vocabulary, and we should do it in a fun way, in a way that our students would be able to relate to the words that has been given to them, making the words less alienable. I think if there's a term like that, like these words seem alien to these students. And how do we make these words not alien to them? No, make it relatable through games. In our classes in social studies, we usually do word banks, but we do it in a way that it's not intimidating to the students. Then we connect these words to the text that they have read and they would be reading, and connect the words also to the real life situations. Okay, there are many ways to unlock vocabulary. It's just a matter of how can you how what is applicable in your own context. Now, aside from unlocking vocabulary, this has been the trend, and this has been effective for many years that I was a teacher, is to make sure that thinking is visible for others. So of course, when students do read, okay, they're also thinking, right? Because they want to make meaning out of the things that, or the words, or the phrases, or the paragraphs that they read. So at times, when these are students read, and they may think that it makes sense in their head, but at times it's hard for them to really consolidate their thinking and really understand and analyze what they are reading. And then the moment that we test and assess their needs, and we assess if they really understood what they're reading, then unfortunately they can't share their understanding, they can share their comprehension, but in their head sometimes it makes sense, or it doesn't make sense at all. So one technique for us is to really make our thinking visible, no? Through visible thinking routines. So what are these visible thinking routines? No, it's a routine where we help our learners to develop clear thinking patterns. We can solicit meaningful discussions to the student from the students, and make purposeful thinking. No, they would be able to have a deeper understanding in any learning situation, and that includes reading. Okay, because reading is also a learning situation. And so when do we do visible thinking routines like thinking aloud? No, we usually do this when we start the reading. We would start reading the text, or before reading and after reading. There are different mini activities where we provide the opportunity for students to really think aloud. For example, before reading, there's activating prior knowledge that comes first before we present the text. Or how do you feel, for example, there's a text about um, a book about No Limit Angel, for example. So there's activating prior knowledge first so that the students can activate their thinking. And then while they do read the text in the at the or in the middle of the reading part, then we ask questions, no, to check for understanding. And thinking aloud means sharing what they are thinking out loud. And then there are also concept maps and charts to help them understand and to help them manifest and materialize or externalize their thinking. So, and what more is appropriate is the concept map. No, by writing down what they have talked about, by annotating what they read, okay, giving insights while they are reading, that would surely create a wonderful learning experience, no, and improve comprehension. And then we do think, pair, share, no, a collaborative strategy where students will work together in different learning situations like solving a problem, answering questions, reading news articles. We usually do this in my Filipino and social studies classes once we present news articles, for example. Okay, first they read, and then we would ask what they think about it, and then they pair up and share their thoughts, and then to one another, and then share it to the whole class. That intricate process, when we start with the individual, and then gradually going to your partner, and then going to the class, we eliminate, no, the we eliminate the, what do you call this, I mean, we provide confidence. No, that's what I meant. We provide confidence to our students because they're not just, sometimes students have the anxiety or the fear to share because they might think, baka mali, no? Maybe it's embarrassing. And so if we do this process, no, then when they start with themselves first, then with their pair, and then towards the whole class, no, it's a step by step way of making sure that our students are confident enough to think and comprehend what they're reading. Um, what makes you say that, no? When reading news articles or reading essays, we always question what makes you say that. It's like it's like unlocking it's a way of making sure that our students will think while they read. Okay, by providing higher order thinking skills or through questions, then we might solicit comprehension from them. And then there's see, think, wonder. Okay, an engaging student led thought process where would help we would help our students observe and then think, or making inferences with reasoning, making inferences from the things that they've read, and then of course wonder when they start answering questions. So there's a see, think, wonder chart and different charts like KWL. There's a ton of them in the internet or the different learning resources. Try to use them, no? Be creative as much as possible. Okay, and then from the comments, I'm trying to read also. So you can read together, visualizing what they're reading, and the different skills like summarizing. Thank you, po, teacher. Rereading, highlighting, and different fix-up strategies. So in this way, our students will be able to help themselves as well. No? Not just us helping them, but they'll be able to help themselves. We are just equipping our students. So to become independent reading. In my Filipino classes, I have devised a way or my own way of a questioning model, no, where I devised uh, and thought about how would my students create connections to the text that they have been reading, because it has been a challenge for my students to really understand and comprehend the text and making connections to the text. Because if the students are disconnected to what they're reading, then more often than not, it would be hard for them to really understand the text, the context of the text. So first one is as the sinasabi, when we do think about when they think about what is really the basic on the surface level, what does the text say? So it forces them to think what I not really force, but it really just basically just asking them what is it all about. Then when we deepen comprehension, like the first second one is ugnay. Paano mo iugnay ang sarili sa iba pang teksto? There's a text-to-text connection. And then realidad, when we think about the realities and the problems in society, then they look at the lens of the text and its parallels to the society and parallels to the world. How can how can they relate the text to the real world situations? And last but not the least is idea, and it's the internal, the reflection part of reading. No, what idea uh, what idea was formed in your mind after reading the text? And this is just one way of creating your own questioning models. But when we do devise our own ways on how to go about helping our students make connections, different strategies like summarizing or skimming or other techniques, and then we would be able to help them. No? Because sino pa bang mas may alam ng students? Us. As it, the teachers know the students best. And so, speaking of questioning, no, there's also an art of questioning where we do deepen the learning process and comprehension when we use variety of questioning techniques. Either the art of questioning when it or inquiry, the process of inquiry, the process of just throwing back and forth these questions, throwing back of these questions to the students. And in my Filipino classes, especially when we do read novels, I find the time and give the opportunity for students to ask the questions themselves. Because most of the time, it's us the teachers asking questions to them. But study shows that once we provide opportunities and make our students create or think about the questions that about the text that they are reading, there will be a vast improvement on the comprehension process of the students. No, just imagine, diba, if we try to read something and then we also do start asking questions about it, it would also spark our curiosity. No, and we don't just improve our comprehension, but also we improve our disposition when it comes to reading. And so I also devised a framework in teaching in Filipino, and I believe that it would also be applicable once we teach the different subjects, because I believe every subject teacher is a reading teacher, and every subject needs comprehension. That's a transferable skill, whatever subject that we teach, right? And so I also devised a framework in teaching, and even in my uh, experience as a reading teacher, is that I'll use culture based learning. And as stated by uh, a scholar, uh, his name I'm not sure if I pronounce it right correctly, E.D. Hirsch. He's a proponent of cultural literacy. So he said that we need to teach students beyond their interest and let their nuanced understanding of the world of different cultures to help them read better. If our students know the context because they know about the different cultures of the Philippines, of the world, then they would be able to understand more what they are reading, because context is important once they are reading, right? And so that is why I'm really an advocate of using our local language literatures so that they will be able to understand more their cultures first and then start introducing the different Western and other Asian literature. And then values-based learning, and we can also incorporate it. Diba? Lagi, we always ask what they have learned in in what morals of the story. But it's not just ending there, no? We want our students, while they are reading, there are questions, soliciting responses about values, books, choosing books that have values, and then history-based and experiential learning. They experience what they are reading. I would not go over the details about this one, but in general, it's important for us to create concepts, to create frameworks, and what best works for you. Okay? Because, of course, every one of us has different contexts. So it's important for us to really create share it again, but it's important for us to really create opportunity and create the best way, the best method of dealing or doing our comprehension strategies. So let me just share again. My apologies. Now, so we're done with uh, last one for the educators part. Okay, all right. Okay, here it is. So drawing is also important when we do literacy, when we want to boost our literacy skills of our students. Wait a bit for the presentation, but I'm telling you, drawing boosts literacy skills. So once we do drawing while reading, we improve the memory, the visual, the kinesthetic. Okay, the reading becomes interactive, and then students can create meaning from the text through unique connections with the text. So that has been very effective, especially for young learners, for kids. Even bad drawings, students will say, I'm bad at drawing, sir, I'm bad at drawing, but it's fine. The moment that they provide an extra layer of reading, of transferring knowledge, not just through the mind, but there's a kinesthetic part and the visual part. We also tap into the different learning preferences, or multiple learning avenues, like through art. Then there's a rich layer of understanding and comprehension. All right. I think it's not sharing. Wait lang po. Okay. Let me just see if it's sharing now. I hope it's sharing now. Okay, thank you. So the last part, the last hat that we will be wearing now is as parents. Okay, so the guardians, the parents, the adults that are surrounding the student. So in your comments, teachers, type into your comments, no? And then how can educators help in improving comprehension of the students? Sige, I will welcome insights from you, teachers. So how can educators help in improving comprehension? Because of course, this is a partnership between teachers and parents, right? It's not just the teachers who will teach the students, but there are instances when we do need help from the parents, no, from the adults or the guardians themselves, or the managers of learning of our students. So how can, okay, but that is not educators, no, but how can parents help in improving the students? Okay, so my apologies for the type error, but I'm asking about the parents. So how can parents help in improving comprehension? Do you have any idea? How can parents help in improving comprehension? So let's just move forward. So while we are waiting for the comments, so of course, first one is they can model good reading behavior. So if you want your child, so as parents, if you want your child to be a good reader, be one yourself. No, but I do agree, sometimes we don't have the time. Of course, we have parent duties and our work. But if our students, no, and if our children see us as someone who makes reading important, then okay, they will, when we model good reading behavior, then they might also inculcate it in their own selves. And how do we do that? whether we whether we teach reading to your kids or reading with your kids, playing games, word games, no? During my earlier years, di pa also internet masyado, no? But we do play word games like Scrabble, no? And that's the time that I fell in love with reading, no? Because it's really fun. I fell in love with language and reading through games. And then when you promote reading at home, you talk to your children a lot, or creating a reading space to your children at home. Now, of course, some will ask this question: what about, of course, not all parents are adept to really teach, no? Or maybe um, even some parents have a hard time or don't have the time to teach their students. That's why it's good for you to really talk to your children a lot, expanding their vocabulary through conversations, relating them with their interest, or just asking them how's school, because conversation can help them comprehend and think at the same time. No, it would help them in their interpersonal skills as well. And once they, sometimes there are times that we will say parents are not adept, or it cannot, comprehend what they're reading. Then that's the time when we do use different platforms, and both online and offline. When we do when as parents proactively seek opportunities to build the literacy skills of our students, of our children. So if there are reading remediation programs, or even reading comprehension programs or enrichment, let your children join. So example, there is Tagpros, no, providing different avenues or classes for reading comprehension. And then there are school libraries, no, and there are reading remediation programs in your sons or daughters schools. Okay, then that's a way of actively seeking the chance or opportunities for our children to build the literacy skills, to improve their comprehension. Dedicate your time for reading, no? And follow up on their teachers all the time. So again, this is a partnership between parents and teachers, because reading should not just be a chore. It should not be a source of frustration. It should be an action, because we derive pleasure from reading, and we use it for self-development. That has been the mission and that has been should be the goal. Why do we read? Not because we're just forced to. And so the institutions, the parents, the educators should work hand in hand. It's a collective effort. Even the community leaders and librarians, no, everyone, even media, the government, everyone, because it takes a village to raise a reader. So all of us play a vital role in developing the children to be lifelong readers, no? And when they are lifelong readers, it will also make them into lifelong learners as well. And we want that as a sustaining uh, part, as a sustaining process of education, no? Because even when we grow old, we are still learning. So when it is a collective effort of the community, we can make sure that every reader is not left behind. Okay? That they would grow up and read with comprehension, and of course, read with love, right? That's the end goal, to also make them love reading. So the challenge would be, how do you play your role in building a village and a nation of readers? How can we overturn the results in PISA, no, and improve our standing as a country? How do we then recover from the deficit, from the learning loss that has happened in the past few years? How can we use the strategies that we've talked about so that we would be able to help one reader at a time? So that ends my discussion. I think we still have time for questions. So thank you very much for listening, teachers, and I would glad to hear your insights about our topic today.
Thank you very much, Nico, for that very insightful and informative talk. Everyone, why don't we give him another virtual round of applause? Now, let us move on to our open forum. All right? Let us welcome again Mr. Nico back to the virtual stage as he will respond to the questions that you've sent during the session. And of course, you may continue to post your questions and comments. Let's begin with our very, very first question. All right. Wow, Mr. Foss, your visual thinking routine patterns were very, very interesting and helpful to all of our watchers. If I were to ask, which is your most ideal or most used VTR for your classes? Yeah, that's my first question.
Okay. My favorite. It's hard. Thank you, Luis, for the question, but it's hard to pick one, to pick just one. But maybe I'm just a fan. I'm just really a fan of note taking,
Mm,
or sketch pads. Um, I know there's just something, a way of like an active process of thinking while reading. And so once do they take notes, like actively take notes and pick information that are important, then actively writing it, no, the way that they want to be, then that's an effective way of really uh, understanding and comprehending what they're reading. Because I remembered lang, no, Luis, I just remembered when I was young, especially I think that some teachers will also relate to this experience. When we are young, and our teachers would always at the beginning of our lesson let us read the objectives, from the objectives down to the skills, to the whole lesson plan in a manila paper, no, and then there's no really anything that I mean, there's no really discussion on all that. We just wrote the whole time. So it's a traumatic experience that we have to on just read it on to write everything. We were not talked about how to properly take notes and do active process of writing and creating your thoughts and comprehending the text. So that's why it's important for me to really use the process of note taking, so that while they are reading, while we are doing discussions, there's retention, no, and they're not just writing for the sake of writing.
wow, thank you so much, Nico. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, I think it's also very important that our learners don't just hear the information, but they also really absorb it. They embed it in their minds and in their hearts. And I think what Mr. Foss was sharing earlier was also very insightful, where decoding versus understanding or comprehending. I think all of us teachers really need to uh, take note of that. Nico, another question. Do you have any practical tips as to how teachers? Oh, here we have one from Mary J. Victorio. Okay. How do you adjust your teaching methods to meet the needs of each student? So, how do you adjust your teaching methods to meet the need of each student? Thank you, Miss Mary J. Mr. Foss, you're on mute.
Okay, so that's a nice question from you, from teacher Mary Jane,
Mary
ano? So
Jane.
yes, how do we then adjust our teaching methods? Okay, So, paano nga ba, Luis? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So, maybe, of course, I think as teachers, no, this has been a very strong trait of us. That's why we're teachers. We have the heart to understand and to listen to them. So, of course, we need to empathize and need to know their context first, because we cannot just prescribe anything that, we cannot just prescribe any teaching methods or teaching strategies if we don't know their needs. So, how do we do that? We need to assess our students' reading level or reading comprehension level. We have to understand them, where they are coming from before we prescribe and before we do our prescription, no. And then, of course, we need to also make them we make them emotionally ready. I think it's very important for us, especially this time during the pandemic or going back face to face. We can connect more to our students when we make them ready, like emotionally, and there's a holistic approach of teaching, right? Okay, so when we do understand the context, and then we provide social emotional support, then we might be able to choose which best teaching methods work for them, no. And then last but not the least, of course, there's a trial and error. If it doesn't work, then try different things. Okay, so there's not really a bible for or a strict method of doing things. It's just a matter of what works for you and what works best for the students. Okay, I hope I answered the question of Nan, no?
Yes, you actually gave agreed. Thank you for that, Nico. Yeah, I think it's very important that we meet the students at their level. We understand the backstories of where they're coming from for us to really be able to accommodate their needs and meet their interests. Wow. Thank you very much, Nico. Now from Joy Eslera, any suggestions you can give in order to let adult learners engage reading in the classrooms? Wow, this is a very interesting question. Wow, go Nico.
Okay. That's an interesting question nga, no? How do we then is Miss Joy asking about the learners who are maybe repeaters or like adult learners? Well, in that case, I understand the struggle, no, on how do we then connect to these students, because sometimes these students maybe are embarrassed or are shy or have different responsibilities other than just learning, no. Maybe they are breadwinners as well. There are different contexts and there are different factors why these students are not engaged, particularly in studying or even reading inside the classroom. So maybe, of course, like what I've said a while ago, first one is to also understand where the student is coming from. And once we do understand the context of the students, maybe ayaw lang niya magbasa kasi pagod siya, or maybe this adult learner doesn't have the time, is embarrassed, no, because he or she is an adult compared to his or her classmates. So maybe strategies like thinking aloud, these learners might be embarrassed. So maybe you use different strategy, like maybe one-on-one might be better. Maybe a separate reading remedial program would be better, or making this adult learner comfortable during class. So again, I can't prescribe how to do it, but the best way is for us to understand where the student is coming from, and then maybe think about the different learning interests, a different interest of the student, of these adult learners. Maybe he's into games, maybe he's into maybe he's into news articles. I don't know. Maybe just think about what makes this adult learner interested in your classroom. No, let's not punish them. Let's not put them into a bad light where they feel that, I'm too old for this. No, because reading should be accessible, whatever your age is, whatever your standing and status in life is. So I hope I answered also that question.
That was very helpful, Nico. Tama, no? So in Tagalog, kung makuha natin yung kiliti ng mga students, or if we push the right
Exactly.
buttons, we'll really be able to get them to do what we want. At the same time, sila will benefit. They will benefit from that. Thank you, Nico. Another comment here from one of our watchers. Yeah, because mga students ngayon, mas mahilig na manood kaysa magbasa. So, just like what Nico said, if we try to get to know them on a deeper or more personal level, maybe we could use that and translate it into a learning opportunity using pop culture or their interests. Galing, galing. Thank you, Nico. Do we have any other questions? Oh, we have a follow-up question from Mary Jane, Nico. She asked earlier how we can get our learners address the reading comprehension need. Do you have any tips to help young learners help in their comprehension skills? I hope that's what your question is, Mary Jane. Ayun.
Okay. So, how can we help also the young learners? Is that the question? What the reading
Yes,
comprehension?
yes. In
Okay.
reading comprehension in that area. Yes po.
I think I also didn't get to mention it a while ago. It's important. It's important for us to give feedback. No, once we assess the reading comprehension of the level of the students, it's as much as important as we give feedback to them where what aspects in their reading skills or literacy skills need work. If they did a good job, of course, or is there anything that we could help them? So we have to give feedback, timely feedback, and we can do that by verbally. We can do different platforms or tech tools to do that. We actively talk to them that this is what we're going to do, because once students receive feedback, then they might be able to engage reading, because they know saan kami nagkakamali, saan kami nagkukulang. And I don't know, reading remedial programs it's a common thing to do, especially in the public schools. Those students who have low comprehension are pulled out, or maybe after class go to reading remedial programs. But make sure these reading remedial programs are not a chore. That's what I always do. When I was in the public school, I always see to it that I make reading remedial programs fun. And like what you said a while ago, this generation is a little bit different from the previous generations. Mahilig sila sa instant, di ba? So they receive information in such a way, in such a way that they want it to be instant, no? That at times the process of learning and reading is sacrificed. They don't enjoy the process anymore of really intricately reading, the transfer of knowledge such in a delicate way of reading. But yun nga how do we then use that to our advantage? No? How do we win back our students by not really banning technology or banning TikTok? Kasi yun naman pagbawalan naman cellphone. No, if we do that, lalong magrebelde yung mga students. But how do we then use this interest, use these platforms, so that they can also apply it once they read in a formal setting? So I'm not sure, maybe do some like when they do activities like book report or sharing comprehension, literary circles, they can do TikTok style or Instagram reels. I don't know. Just use these new avenues for them to really use it in a formal classroom setting.
Grabe, ang galing. Actually, goosebumps na ako. Ang galing, tama. If you think about it, if we use their things that we'd usually call taboo, or if we use things that we'd usually ban and transform them to things that will be stepping stones to making our learners do the task, let's use it. If we also dial back to what Nico said a while ago, they should view reading as something pleasurable, not a chore. Hindi siya out of obligation, but they do it because they've grown interested. They've really learned to love the art of reading and comprehensions, like what you mentioned earlier. We also have another recommendation from Miss Joy. The topics you shared, Nico, are a refresher for us teachers. So thank you very much. So napaka-timely talaga, everything that Nico has been sharing with us. And I'd also like to dial back to one of the things he said. When we get to know the students more, personally, even our tasks and their responses will be more purposeful. So I think, yes, it's very helpful. So I think we have time for maybe one or two more questions, if
I think there's a
any.
question. Yes, thank you, Luis. There's a follow-up question from Miss Joy. And do you see it? Okay. Mhm.
Yes, yes. So aside from pulling out students from their classes for the remediation, kasi nahihiya sila na ma-identify na slow reader. Tama naman. Ano po kaya ang pwedeng gawin, Nico?
All right. So, uh, I also understand the concern. No, we don't want to label our students slow learners, fast learners. I think we should be deviating away from labels. No, but instead, how can we package our programs in such a way that it's inclusive, in such a way it's fun, in such a way that it's a way of helping students and not alienating them. So I understand this concern because when we did our reading programs in Nabotas before, we started with the simple way of having that thought that this is somehow like a camp or a reading program. We called it Dream Read because we want our students to read and to dream, and not because they are slow learners. It's just a fun way after school of hanging out and doing activities. And it's not just like, oh, ito basahin mo to. And ang bagal mo talaga. We don't do that. We do games. I know it would take a lot of time and effort, but when we create programs, we have to ask help from like-minded individuals or like-minded teachers to really think about a program that is inclusive and fun and not alienating in a sense. So we start from that, and of course,
All right.
all
Let's
right.
just
Sorry.
there. All right. Mr. Foss is back with us. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, my apologies. My internet just got restarted. Okay, but anyway, so going back, when we don't want to just what do you call this? Not just pull out, then we can do differentiation techniques, no? Or differentiated activities inside the classroom. Of course, this might elicit effort, but if we do it from time to time, when we do differentiated activities that would address the different needs of the students, like there are activities for uh, fast learners, there's activities for developing readers, and then having to do peer activities, no, to help also those who are struggling readers, no. We solicit leadership opportunities for students who can read properly or who can read well. Then these students who are shy might be able to open up, no, and to also be developed in their reading. So that's it. I hope I answered the question.
Tama ang husay. We use differentiated learning activities, either based on their ability or their interests, to
Yes.
really promote and encourage tama nga, no, inclusivity. So the students don't feel alienated. They don't feel left behind. And it also provides an avenue for them to collaborate with other learners as well. So yeah, it's a very helpful technique, Nico. And also, I like what you said earlier that it's very important that we don't emphasize or we don't label them as slow learners talaga.
Right.
Instead,
Mm.
provide them channels or avenues. O nga naman, kawawa naman talaga yung bata. If we put a label on him or her, wala na. We're limiting that student right there and then. So yeah, very, very helpful. Okay, let me check the chat. All right. So yeah, we're really learning a lot from your talk, Nico. Thank you for your very detailed and specific
Thank you.
answers. I think we really learned a lot. So yeah, if you have any additional questions, perhaps that we can just contact Mr. Foss or Tagpros. And that ends our open forum for today. If you have any other questions, as I said, kindly forward them to Tagpros Education Facebook page, and we will try our best to give you the answers that you seek from Mr. Foss, our guest speaker for today. Once again, thank you, Nico, for being with us for that very inspiring and informative session. And thank you for really spending the time with us. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you also, Luis, no, for the chance no, to have this conversation. I really appreciate it. Thank you, po, teachers.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, I actually also enjoyed our exchange today. Thank you, Nico. All right. So before we finally end, let me invite you once again to visit our class offerings at tagpros.us. There are a lot of classes there. Nico has classes there. I have classes there. Please join us, enroll, and let's all learn and work together on Tagpros Education. I hope to see you there. Again, if you want to be partners of Tagpros Education, of course, we invite you to join us as well. As I mentioned earlier, you will be enjoying all of the benefits of a Tagpros teacher. Earn at your own pace, CPD accredited units, participate in international professional opportunities, get your own personal badge, and many more other perks. Please join us. All right, to know more about the program, again, visit our Tagpros marketplace on tagpros.us. Now, tell us your thoughts about today's webinar workshop in the evaluation form through our website, https://tagpros.org. The link is presented on the screen, all right, as well or in the comments section below. Answering the evaluation form is necessary for claiming the e-certificates. Over here, guys, if you want that e-certificate, I highly encourage all of you, fill out that eval form. It'll only take you less than a minute, all right? Now, you have 1 week to answer the eval form and get an e-certificate. If you like, take a screenshot, take a picture of this slide over here, if you won't be able to do it right now. You have a week, all right? So, thank you again for your understanding. And that ends today's webinar workshop, but we hope to see you again when on maybe December, January for another set of webinar workshop series. As always, keep updated with Tagpros Education by following our official pages. Invite your family and friends. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and on YouTube and Instagram. Again, I'm Luis Pelea, signing off. Thank you for joining us here today at Tagpros. See you again. Bye-bye.